Hey guys, it's Silas here. I've posted a couple live PvP videos against people from the new event as well as friends around my friend list, and I thought it might be nice to make a PvP tier list about what or who I believe to be the top 5 PvP characters. To get into it, for people who may not want to watch a lengthy video, my top 5 would be Anana, Simona, Kokoa, Momo, and then Leonide. Again, Gloria, Beryl, Akambe, Etta, all super strong, super good, but just not as elite as some of the other characters that I said. People may specifically ask about Gloria. I have a 5-star Gloria, and I wouldn't even consider a top 5 PvP character. She is incredibly good and super useful for a team, but my tier list is the character as an individual and what they can do. Gloria is more of a team player but does offer DPS, but overall I don't think she's as big of a threat as what people kind of make her out to be, or like on a banned pick tier list. Sorry, not tier list, but priority. People just ban her right away and leave characters like Anana, Momo, Kokoa, Simona, when she's most definitely not as much of a threat as the others. So to get into it, Anana would be my number 1. If you're fighting someone whose roster has an Anana, I would personally use my first ban against them. What makes her so crazy and just ranked number 1 is honestly her Princess Prayer. In a strategy RPG, any character that has the ability to allow another character to act again just makes them already god tier. It can set up crazy moves in a sense that if set up correctly, you can almost 1 or 2 turn a team. She pairs incredibly well with Momo, pairs with Simona, Beryl, Akambe. Again, you put her with any other character and she makes them even better. She's not as gear dependent as some of the other characters like Momo or Leonide. Realistically, all you really need is the Mercy of the High Priestess Tarot, increases her healing, that's all you really need. I have Cup and Cup Engraving, increases healing effect, healing received, allows her to stay alive a bit longer. I have her 4-star, which I think is all you really need. You don't really need 5 stars, all it does is increases the Princess Guard's attack defense. But at 4-star, she has a 4-tiled range free heal to 2 characters and grants them 1 level 2 buff. That in itself is like a free heal with a range of 4. Pretty crazy. She also has super high magical defense, which means like characters against Momo or Beryl or Akambe is really hard to defeat Anana because they have a weakness type advantage against her, and she has just such naturally high magic defense, including when you add the fancy hat, which increases by 15%, and she can't get disrupted, which means her ability to heal your other characters is super good. This is the setup I use for PvP. Calling the guard can make it really good, and if it gets killed, having it on the field also makes it really good. Unlike Akambe, she has the ability to summon the guard permanently. Akambe's assassins only last for 2 turns before disappearing, but having a 6th man on the field allows the guard to kind of go after barrels or the rocks up near the top corners of the map, which allows the other 5 members to kind of stay together and help each other. So she offers the ability to act again, pretty much has a permanent summon, and has stacked healing. Some people, I have seen run Flight of the Princess. I personally don't like it because if she gets caught with 90% less HP, it could be an insta-kill. but I might do more testing, but this could be another option if you don't want to run guard, or you can just run the single healing or single energy healing spell, which if she runs out of energy, you can just pop a single heal. Isn't that big of a deal. Also, when more characters get defeated, she stacks decreased damage. So she starts taking more decreased damage the more characters get defeated. And then she also increases her magic attack, which means her heals are going to be doing more. So overall, my top ranking, this should be the first person you ban on any person who has her in the roster. My second character in the tier list would be Simona. I have a really high powered Simona. The reason she's so good is she has probably the highest mobility in the game right now, but also her speed. She is going to be the first person acting on your team or against your opponent unless they have a Simona. But the fact she always acts first in the turn order means that you can do some silly things to the enemy team. If you have a really aggressive Simona, you can Ice Assault, move, again, that's like 3 extra tiles. Then she also moves 3 tiles. You can Icy Blast barrels into people, or just knock them off cliffs, or knock them onto the rail tracks. And with her Winter Doomsday, she gets a massive 3 ranged 5x3 AoE, and the 3 tiles in the center inflicts frozen. So if you have an enemy team that's stacking up and you hit them with Winter Doomsday, you can potentially freeze 2 to 3 of their characters, and it's a debuff, and they just can't take an action. So it's kind of like stun, but you pretty much stun or you freeze the enemy in place for an entire turn. So 2 to 3 of their characters might lose an entire action or turn, which makes her value just incredible. Also, I have her 3-star, which I think is when she starts getting really, really good. I'm close to getting her 4-star, but my goal is to get her 5-star. At 5-star, I think she's going to be top PvP monster. The reason is she gets 25% increased attack and defense. She has or gains true immunity to attribute debuffs, which means you pretty much can't debuff her. And she just continuously gets her Armor of Ice, which means that physical attacks just really aren't going to do a lot. And she's just so tanky. She, like, for me, I have 900 physical and magical defense with pretty high HP. So she can take a beating before actually really going down. And if you have a healer on your team, then the only real way to get her is to like push her off a cliff. She is also part of the Discipline team, which right now in this meta is so stacked. You have Anana, Ida, Leonide, Akambe, and then herself, with Leonide and Akambe offering Leader Aura. And she's also part of the Union, which has Gloria as well as Ballista, which he's on my PvP roster because he's also really good. But those people are all fairly stacked, with Gloria being really good. I personally use Dream of the Magician, but I have seen some people use March of the Chariot, which gives her a move 2 if she's on standby, which super increases her movement and lets her go first, which makes Winter's Doomsday quite a threat to deal with when she has like up to 11 range. That's 5 being from movement with the Chariot, plus 3 from her Icy Assault, and then 3 with her Winter Doomsday. I use the Hourglass. I don't have the book, but some people will rock the book, which I think is her best trinket. But I would personally use Starry Sky for her weapon, and then I like Dream of the Magician just to give a bit more damage. So she is definitely my number 2 spot and high priority ban. My number 3 would go to Kokoa. She might go higher on the list if I had her higher starred. My goal is to get her 5-star, so I will be farming her. But at 5-star, the happiness, the ability to reduce energy consumption by 1, as well as cooldown by 1, is just, it's stacked. And she gets to do it to 2 allies. And then she also has her block, which is nasty. She's just such a strong tank and allows your team to stay alive because she offers the block. You know, when blocking, she decreases the damage taken by 15%. And then she, you know, she has her assistant cover, and then she just stacks with heals, right? So after she takes a hit, she heals herself and one other ally. And then, you know, she has her treasure, which allows her to instant cast a skill heal. She can cast that up to 5 times, but she can cast it twice in the same round, or she can cast the bandage plus the potion in a single round, which is crazy. Her Snow Lotus grants damage 3 and damage reduction 3, so you can technically cast that on Momo, and then Momo casts her Doom Waken, and then she has a damage 3 and damage reduction 3 on her alert. And if you have Anana on the same team, Momo can attack up to 6 times, which becomes, you can start getting some silly combinations, but again, a lot of them come from Anana with just her simple ability to allow someone to act again, which is why she's number 1, because you can put her on any team and the team's going to get better. She has her Iron Pot Stew, which grants allies crit and crit damage, as well as Bento, which again removes debuffs and, you know, increases their HP. So she's an HP monster. She has such high HP. I believe I have her close to 10,000 when she's in or on the field, because it won't show it in the stat screen. Really, there is no counter to her. You just kind of have to wear her down, or use barrels, the field, fire, or get really lucky and have the person you're fighting use really bad placement, and then you can kind of like push her off a cliff with knockback or do something like that. But overall, like, counter wise, there isn't much of a counter to her. You just have to wear her down through the battle. She's not super great at taking AoE damage, so I guess that's your counter, but again, her HP is just so high that no matter what, it's going to take 4 or 5 hits to take her out. Simona, like, when we're talking about counters, the only real counter to Simona is another Simona. Because that's the only one you have to really get worried about, and you just have to be wary of your positioning. Because sometimes if you're playing a really aggressive gameplay, you can single her out, and if 5 people are attacking you, you are going to lose. But most of the time, there is no real counter to her. You just have to get really lucky and hope that the person you're fighting just uses really bad positioning. But the only real counter to Simona is a Simona, just because her speed is so high that she's always acting first. And if you feel like your Simona's gonna die, you can retreat and then heal up. So, really, really crazy. My 4th person in the tier list would be Momo. The reason she's not higher is because she's so gear dependent. Where the other 3 characters aren't so reliant on having crazy gear, Momo is only good when she has the gear that is her best in slot. If she doesn't have Hunter's Intuition, she's not even in the top 5, and her main ability, Doom Waken, is what makes her the monster that she is. I have an extremely powered up Momo, 30-40 power. You know, I'm about to get 4-star, I'll get her tomorrow. But what makes her so crazy again is the Doom Waken, as well as her versatility. So she has Misfortune Erosion, a massive 4x3 AoE, you know, procs infection. She's also a dot monster. But I usually run Repulsion Application when I'm PvPing. The reason is you get a push or a pull. And depending how the enemies position themselves, you can push them off a cliff, you can pull them off the cliff, you can push or pull them onto the train tracks or you can move them in front of barrels, push barrels into people, or like any skill or ability that has forced movement is so highly ranked in PvP. Just because it becomes how insightful are you and tactful you are in just moving people around to your benefit, right? So now, talking about gear, she has to have Hunter's Intuition. She has to have Destruction of the Tower. The reason is it grants 20% damage when it's not her turn. Doom Waken grants her a 3 ranged alert. Focus Wand makes that 4 range. So now she has a 4 ranged tile, 3 timed strike back placed around herself, which becomes crazy. And with Hunter's Intuition, anyone entering, leaving, or using a skill in it starts taking huge damage. If you've seen some of the videos I've posted before, she hits between like 3,000 to 6,000 damage per strike back she uses, and she can use 3 of them. Most of the time, if an enemy is within her range, walks forward and tries to use a skill, they're dead. Let's say an enemy actually gets up to Momo. One of the craziest things she has is a repulsion barrier. She has immunity to knockback. She increases her attack, which is whatever, but she reduces damage taken by 50%. And she has this stacking up to 5 times. So if an enemy somehow enters her range, takes 2 to 3 of her strike backs or her blasts, survives, and tries to hit her, she mitigates that damage by 50%. And the craziest part is that her Doom Waken grants her lifesteal. She has a 20% increase to attack, 50% lifesteal. Right? So that's... It just becomes so crazy. And then if you pair her up with Anana, and she uses Princess Prayer on her, she can attack, strike back 3 times, use Princess Prayer, attack, and then have another 3 strike backs. So she can attack 8 times in a single round. She can single-handedly obliterate a person's team, especially if you're fighting someone who may not be as geared as you. It is almost an insta-wipe with how good she is. So she is most definitely high priority ban, as well as top 5 on a PvP tier list for me. Again, for engravings, I highly recommend using Wand and Wand. The reason is anytime you use a strike back or a basic attack, she gains 1 random level 2 buff. If she uses a basic attack and 3 strike backs in a single turn, she gets 4 level 2 buffs. If Anana uses Princess Prayer, she gets to act again, and she attacks 8 times, she gets 8 level 2 buffs. That is 8 level 2 buffs on top of having a 50% lifesteal, 20% attack bonus, 50% damage reduction, and being able to push and pull people without like forced movement. So she's actually a PvP monster and definitely one of the best DPS. My last character on the PvP tier list would be a surprise, as I have never seen someone use him against me yet, and I use him almost every match because he's an underdog, is Leonide. Again, he's incredibly gear dependent, and everything procs off of this skill here. This skill is a must-have for him to be a PvP machine, and the reason is 1, it grants HP 15% HP, and if his HP is higher than the enemy he's attacking, so his max HP. So even if he's low HP, his max HP never changes, because it's what his HP is that he can go up to. Is higher than the target's current HP, he knocks the target back 1 tile. I have him at 6,500. When he's in game, I think he's close to 8,500 or 8,700. And I don't really have great engravings on it. Like, that's 4% HP. I can get that up to like 15. So he can go up to about 10,000, 11,000 HP. The only character who will have higher HP than him is Kokoa. And even then, you can potentially have higher HP than her or any other character that you're fighting. Especially if you're not fighting a well-built Kokoa. So, to explain it, he also has the Discipline Leader aura, which is super strong, and I talked about how great the Discipline team is. But for the most part, you can be running 2 DPS skills. This is a mandatory, this skill never changes. But to talk about it, anytime he attacks, he knocks the target back 1 tile. Because he's always going to have a max HP greater than the target's current HP. Except against some Kokoas. So, what this means is anytime he uses a basic attack or a skill, he's going to knock the target back 1 tile. This makes him pretty dangerous because you have to be very wary of positioning on the map. Now, Roaring Flint Trinket is an AoE piercing damage, but it's a 2-tiled AoE with a range of 2 to 3. I believe it's 3. What this means is now he has a ranged AoE knockback. So he can be 6 tiles away from your character, walk 3 tiles, and use this and knock them into a barrel or knock them off the map. And again, it doesn't matter how much damage your character does, because a knockback off the map is an insta-kill. A knockback into a barrel does true piercing damage up to like 60% of your character's health. Course of Fortune is a mandatory turret because there's a buff on here that grants him an AoE explosion 2 tiles. This means he now has a 2-tiled knockback AoE explosion centered on him, plus a ranged 3-tiled range AoE knockback. He can move up to 3 tiles and can use 2 skills which offer him extra 3-tile range. So which means he has a danger zone of 6 tiles at all times around him with knockback. This one, he doesn't do a lot of damage, but it recovers HP equal to 100% attack. He has about 4,000 attack in game when he's on the map. Again, some of the stats and buffs don't apply to the attribute screen in the character details, but they'll show up differently when he's on the map. This means as he procs this, he heals 4,000 HP, then attacks the person and knocks them back 1 tile. Which is crazy, because then he can knock the person back off the map into a barrel, or if you knock a character back into another character, it does piercing damage, or it's called collision damage in the game, which is a piercing damage, so it does true damage. It ignores defense. Then he also has the all-out pike thrust. Again, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it inflicts stun if it causes a collision. This also means that if he knocks or he hits a character into another character or an enemy, then that character becomes stunned. They miss a full turn. if you guys kind of see where I'm going with this, he might not look super great, but once you start putting all the pieces together, he really shines and becomes a control monster on the field. You're kind of so stressed about your positioning when you're fighting him that it takes away from what the other 4 characters on the field are doing, or if you're too focused on what the other characters on the map are doing and you forget about him, he just comes in and knocks your whole team off the cliff, right? Because he gets a AoE ranged knockback, or if he charges at your team with a 6 tile danger zone and then uses his turret, he knocks them all back either way. Overall, just a monster for me, and definitely an underdog that people aren't paying attention to. But for me overall, Anana is number 1 and is the highest banned priority. If you see a team that has her, she should be your first ban. She's just so good and allows characters to do things they aren't meant to do by allowing them to act again in a single turn. So to go over it one more time, Anana is ranked 1, Simona is ranked 2, Kokoa is ranked 3, Momo is ranked 4, and Leonide is ranked 5. Thanks, guys.